Something's happening. Okay, you should see my screen okay?
Yep, we're seeing your screen.
Okay, well, as Brianna said, thanks for joining us. This will be a brief overview, maybe it should be less than 30 minutes, I would think, or so. But the purpose of today's demonstration is to really show the integration between SalesLogix and the e-marketing powered by SwiftPage solution that is an option for any of the SalesLogix users out there. And it's part of the package you get when you sign up for SalesLogix e-marketing. As you may know, you get drip marketing functionality, the ability to send up to 5,000 emails a day to your groups of contacts and groups of leads in SalesLogix. And along with that, you get drip marketing and just email blasts, and then surveys are also part of that same solution. And we're not aware of any limits. We were talking before the demo trying to discover if there's any limits placed on how many surveys you can have, and we don't think that there is, but nevertheless, I've got several of them here in the demo for today. And again, my plan would be to kind of explain what surveys do, how they function, how you set them up, how you record the responses, then back into SalesLogix. The first thing I want to talk about is that there are 3 different types of surveys. So what I've done is I've navigated to the e-marketing area in my SalesLogix web client, and you'll see that there are a number of tabs that go across here that take me to the different SwiftPage destinations and e-marketing destinations. So on the survey tab, we can see that I've got 5 different surveys that are already loaded in the system. What this means is that I've created these surveys and they exist and they're alive and able to be filled out depending on how I'm directing my contacts to the surveys. You'll also notice there are 3 different types of surveys. So one of the first things you decide when you create a new survey is what kind of survey am I trying to create here. The first kind is called a list builder, and those surveys are designed to create a lead record in SalesLogix. So traditionally it might be a link on your website that takes into a survey that says what's your name, what's your address, what are you interested in, how much money do you have, things like that that are important. So you create a list builder, and once they fill out the form and submit it, it actually does create a brand new lead record in SalesLogix. Now, a list updater is based on a contact or a lead that is already in SalesLogix, but you're going to specifically request that that existing lead adds or updates his data. And I get these once in a while too. I'll get people who will send me a survey and say, do you still work at Customer FX? Is this still your address? Are you still broke? All those things. So I fill those out, and that creates an update. And so that's what you're seeing. So instead of a net new record, it will update existing records in the system. And then finally, there's a general survey, and a general survey is not integrated into SalesLogix at all. The results of those surveys are actually kept on the SwiftPage site, and I'll show you that. So you're going to see what's going to happen is when the survey gets filled out, SwiftPage is actually storing the results for each survey in a catalog, and then as part of a second operation, you can then bring those results or process the responses, they call it here, backwards into SalesLogix, and that's what actually at that time is when the leads are updated and when the new leads are added into the system. And of course, with a general survey, that's a non-integrated survey. There's no integration occurring with SalesLogix, but that might be if you just want to keep the data off-site and maybe do some other kind of manual follow-up with those survey respondents. Okay, now taking a look at the list, there's a couple of them in here. We can see that this first one, the CFX List Builder, 3 people have responded to that survey, 3 people filled it out, and none of them have been not applied, which means that there are no new filled out surveys that I have not yet processed. And so we're going to go to this list builder here called SP List. It's just a sample, a very simple sample. And once I highlight one of these, you'll notice that some extra buttons have shown up now, and I can preview the survey, edit the survey, or manage my surveys, which takes you to the survey management area within SwiftPage. So first thing we'll do is let's just preview the survey. What this is doing is it's saying, hey, this is what your survey looks like. Now this one is not very glamorous. It's just a what's your name, what's your address, and what's your birthday. And you can actually fill it out here. This is the live landing page. And I'll talk about that a little. Surveys can either be embedded as an iframe in your existing website, which is probably the most common thing we see, is that the survey lives as a little window in one of your web pages, like your contact page. If you want to contact us, fill out the survey, and somebody will contact you. And so, again, this is just a very sterile-looking survey, but there are templates and backgrounds and things you can do to make this a little bit more stylish to match the look you might want if you embedded it on your web page. Or you can have what's called a landing page, and a landing page is a standalone web page, and that's what you're looking at here, a standalone landing page. It's not incorporated into your website, but rather it's just a standalone page that you can send them to either, for example, in an email link. So you may send out an email blast that has a survey embedded in it, and so this particular website would be embedded as a hyperlink in your email blast, and if they click on it, this is where they're going to end up filling out this form. So we'll go back here now and let's choose Edit the Survey. That's going to open up my SwiftPage e-marketing survey screen for editing this specific survey that we were working on today. Things I can do from the Survey Designer screen are add questions, edit the questions if I want to make changes, add a title, and even include instructions to the surveyee how to fill the form out or why you're asking these questions. You can also set up a background page, as I mentioned, which could have certain colors or fonts or graphics or whatever makes it your own. That's how you would do that. And you can also do things like change the fonts and the borders and so forth on the survey. So also while we're here, you'll notice across the top of the screen I have a survey management button. And from here I can create what's called a short link, which is a shorter version of that big long URL we saw. It uses a tool called TinyIP to create a shorter link. So if you're asking somebody to type in a website, it's not so difficult to do that. And it's also from here that you can create new surveys, change the current survey, maybe rename it and so forth. You'll also see that this particular survey we're using for the demo has a couple of options called autoresponder email acknowledgement. What that will do is you can set it up so that once somebody fills out the survey, assuming you ask them for their email address in the survey, it will send them an acknowledgement, and it will send you, the SwiftPage e-marketing administrator, also will get an email from SwiftPage that says, Scott filled out a survey today, and you should go process the response, that kind of thing. You can also cause the response to put them on a drip marketing campaign. And so if they filled out a form that said they're interested in one of your products or services, you can have it so once they submit that, it automatically enrolls them in one of your ongoing drip marketing campaigns. And you can also tell it whether or not to update the database and whether or not this is a landing page or not. So let's take a look at the results options next. And it's from here again that you set up autoresponder. Is it a database updating? Is it a list builder, a list updater? And then we've also told it in this drop-down that as a SwiftPage customer FX, we use SalesLogix, and therefore we've activated the integration features, which I'll show you on this particular survey. So now if we go submit, it actually takes me to the next screen, and it's here that you do the data field matching. So what we're telling SwiftPage is, when somebody fills out one of these surveys, here's where I want you to put the data. And so logically, their first name goes to the first name field in SalesLogix, last name, email account, and so forth. And if you click on one of these drop-downs, you're presented with a list of all of the available fields that come from the lead table in SalesLogix. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Because what you notice here is this is not all the fields that could be in my SalesLogix lead table. Maybe you're asking them specific questions, what's your hat size, what's your favorite color, how old are you, things like that. Well, none of the fields that you see on this list would be appropriate for that. So what you would do is, I'll pop over to the database manager here in SalesLogix, and I have the lead table opened up. So these are all the fields over on the right side that are in my SalesLogix system. These are all the fields that are eligible to be mapped back into one of these surveys. So one of the first instructions I'd want to give everybody, if you decide to create one of these surveys, you need to make sure that all the fields that you want to map data back to when they fill out the form are available in SalesLogix. And these have to be text fields. You can see that there's a bunch of user-defined fields. A lot of people will just rename these because they are already text fields. And as long as you're not using them for something else, you can just rename them and then make those available for the data mapping over on the survey side. So the way you administer that, and again, I just want to remove as much of the mystery about how all this works. So I'm going to jump to the options screen in my SalesLogix system, and I'm going to log into my SwiftPage account. I'm going to put in my secret password here. And you'll notice over on the right, it says Map SwiftPage Mail Merge Fields. What you're doing now is you're telling SwiftPage from within SalesLogix that of all those fields we saw in the leads table, these are the ones that I want to potentially map survey results to. You'll notice over on the right, these are the ones that were in the list when I clicked on that drop down in SwiftPage. So it's not all of them, it's just some of them. But if I want to add another field, I'm trying to think if I had mobile. So let's say, you know what, I'm going to start asking people for their mobile number. So I clicked on mobile, and now I add that, and you'll notice that mobile now shows up over on the Mail Merge definitions panel, which means it's now available to me to map to. So we'll close this out. And I am jumping around a lot, I apologize, but you'll notice now, it should be there. I actually have to go back one and try this again, which is just doing a little refresh. And there's the mobile number now. So now I can map your birthday, even though that's not logical, to the mobile lead field in the SalesLogix system. So that's all you do. And you submit that when you've made your change, and that's ready to go. The next thing I'll show you is we can look at the responses. So as I mentioned, whether you process the responses or not back in SalesLogix, all the responses to this particular survey are here on SwiftPage until you clear them out. So they're going to stay here, so anytime you want to, you can come in here and see who's responded, what did they say. So if I edit one of these, it's going to actually show me what the guy, John Doe, put in the form. I can actually make modifications to it. Maybe he spelled something wrong or didn't fill out a mandatory field or whatever. You can modify these results before you bring them back into SalesLogix. You can also delete them here. You'll also notice over on the right, they have X's in them, which means that I've already processed these back in SalesLogix. So they've already become brand new leads, and that's how the checkbox got in here. So I can see at a glance, I've already processed all of these. Okay, there's an Edit Responses button. You can delete all the data if you want. And the other thing you can do from this screen is you can add a brand new survey result without actually filling out the survey. So maybe they're on the phone with you, but you want to collect the data in a survey. So in essence, you can fill out the survey form yourself if maybe it came in some other manner, but you wanted it included in the survey. So this is just a way to manually fill out a survey form. Okay, so let's give this thing a try. So let's go back into SalesLogix here. We'll go back into eMarketing. And we're going to go to this SP Builder, and we're going to preview the survey. And we're going to say, one John, one test, just to make this easy. And I'm just going to put in some gobbledygook, because you can see some of these fields are mandatory, and that's how I set it up. So once I click Submit, it says, thanks, your response has been added to the database. And now if we come back into SalesLogix, I do have to leave the screen, which refreshes it, and I'll come back in here now. You should see that, okay, for the SP List Builder survey, we now have 9 responses, and one of them has not yet been applied. So I can go ahead and highlight that and choose Process Responses. And sure enough, here's one John, one test, his bogus email, and whatever else he did or didn't fill out. I can see that here. Now, you can assign an owner to this, which, as you know, is the security within SalesLogix. You can go ahead and create the lead or skip it. If this one is garbage and you don't want to deal with it, you don't want it to be a lead, it's still going to show up as processed, but it skips it and does not go ahead and add the lead. So we'll say create the lead, and it says, okay, all your survey responses were processed. So now, if the magic worked, we should be able to come back into the leads area and do an all leads. And there is Mr. John Test. So here we have a brand new lead record with his first and last name, and whatever I filled out is on here. And so there you have it. So now, obviously, you can build groups. You can build call lists based on these survey responses, and whatever you would normally do with a brand new lead that's in the system. So that is basically everything I wanted to show you today. Again, I want to remove the mystery about how these surveys work, how to create them, how to modify them, and then how to get the results pushed back into SalesLogix. So with that, Brianna, is there any questions that have cropped up?
No, apparently you did a very good job of explaining things. We don't have any questions right now.
I think so. All right. Well, thanks. Go ahead and close it up then. I appreciate everybody's attendance today.
And if you do have any questions, please feel free to, you can either go out to Customer FX and contact us that way. You can also send an email to info@CustomerFX, and that will reach both Scott and myself. And if you have any questions about e-marketing in general or surveys in particular, we'd be happy to answer those for you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.